Before I disappeared, I left my father one final message. I told him to give a letter to Victor Romano, the city's most feared mafia boss. 15 years later, he finally opened it. The powerful man froze because the letter revealed a secret that changed everything. Before we begin this emotional story, tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to know which part of the world is joining us today. My name is Emily Carter, and before I tell you why I disappeared, you need to understand where I came from. I was raised by my father, Daniel Carter, in a small neighborhood outside Chicago. We never had a lot of money, but we had something far more valuable. We had each other. My father was a mechanic who spent most of his life fixing other people's problems. Every morning before sunrise, he would leave our small house with his old toolbox in his hand and return late at night with grease on his clothes and exhaustion in his eyes. But no matter how tired he was, he always smiled when he saw me. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," he used to say. After my mother passed away when I was young, my father became my entire world. He learned how to cook, how to braid my hair, and how to comfort me when I cried. He missed countless hours of sleep just to make sure I never felt like I was missing a family. He was not a rich man. He was not powerful. But he had the biggest heart of anyone I knew. Growing up, I always admired him. He taught me that people should never be judged by their mistakes or their reputation. He told me that every person had a story hidden behind their actions. I carried those words with me my entire life. Those were the reason I made the decision that changed everything. When I was 24 years old, I started volunteering at a community center in the city. I helped children with homework, served meals to struggling families, and spent time with people who had nowhere else to go. That was where I met someone who changed my understanding of the world. His name was Michael. At first, he seemed like a quiet older man who came to donate supplies. He never talked much about himself, but I noticed something strange. Everyone respected him. Some people looked at him with fear. Others avoided being near him. One day, I asked someone why everyone acted differently around him. The person looked at me and whispered a name. Victor Romano. The name immediately changed the atmosphere. I had heard stories about Victor. Everyone in the city knew who he was. He was considered one of the most powerful mafia bosses in the country. People said he controlled businesses, had enemies everywhere, and was a man nobody wanted to cross. To most people, Victor Romano was a monster. But the more I learned, the more I realized there was another side to the story. There were rumors about a tragedy from his past. A betrayal. A person he lost. A secret that had haunted him for decades. At first, I wanted nothing to do with that world. My father had raised me to stay away from danger. But something kept pulling me toward the truth. I discovered old documents, forgotten records, and stories from people who knew Victor before he became the feared man everyone talked about. What I found shocked me. The man everyone hated had once been someone completely different. Someone who loved deeply. Someone who had been hurt. Someone who had lost everything because of a lie. I didn't know it then, but the truth I was searching for would put my own life in danger. I thought I was uncovering someone else's secret. I didn't realize I was uncovering the secret that connected my own life to Victor Romano. And years later, when I placed that letter in his hands, the most feared man in the city would finally learn the truth that had been hidden from him for decades. The more I learned about Victor Romano, the more confused I became. Everything I heard about him painted a picture of a cold and dangerous man. People spoke his name carefully, as if saying it too loudly could bring trouble to their door. They talked about his power, his enemies, and the fear he created wherever he went. But the stories I discovered were different. They were about a man who had once been young. A man who had once believed in love. A man who had lost someone important and never recovered from it. I couldn't stop thinking about the difference between the person people feared and the person he might have been before everything changed. My curiosity eventually led me to an old woman named Sophia, who had worked for the Romano family many years earlier. She lived alone in a small apartment on the edge of the city. When I mentioned Victor's name, her expression immediately changed. "You should be careful asking questions about him," she warned. I understood the fear in her voice. "I don't want to hurt anyone," I told her. "I just want to understand the truth." She studied my face for a long moment. "Most people who search for Victor's past are looking for money or power," she said. "Why are you different?" I thought about my father, about everything he had taught me. "Because I believe everyone deserves to know the truth." Sophia looked away. For several minutes, she said nothing. Then she walked to an old wooden cabinet and pulled out a small box covered in dust. I kept these because I knew one day someone might need to see them. Inside the box were photographs, handwritten letters, and documents from decades earlier. My hands trembled as I looked through them. There was a younger Victor Romano. He looked nothing like the man I had heard about. He was smiling. He looked happy. Standing beside him was a beautiful woman named Isabella. Sophia explained that Isabella was the one person who could make Victor forget about his dangerous life. She was his weakness, Sophia whispered. Or maybe she was his reason to become better. I looked at the photographs carefully. They seemed like a normal couple. Two people in love. Two people planning a future together. But then Sophia showed me another document. A newspaper article about Isabella's disappearance. The headline said she vanished without a trace. Victor believed she had abandoned him. Others told him she had betrayed him. But Sophia shook her head. Victor never knew the truth. What truth? She looked directly at me. Isabella never left him. My heart started beating faster. Then what happened to her? Sophia took a deep breath. Someone wanted Victor to believe she was gone. Someone close to him created a lie that destroyed his life. I looked back at the photographs. Suddenly, Victor's anger and loneliness made sense. He wasn't just a powerful man. He was someone who had been carrying a wound for decades. But then Sophia said something that changed everything. Emily, there is something you need to know. I froze. How do you know my name? She looked at the photograph of Isabella. Then she looked back at me. Because I have seen those eyes before. A cold feeling went through my body. What are you saying? Sophia slowly opened another envelope hidden inside the box. This was meant to be found one day. I stared at the envelope. There was a name written on the front. Not Victor's. Not Sophia's. Mine. For the first time, I realized this mystery wasn't just about a powerful man from the past. It was connected to me. And whatever was inside that envelope would change the way I saw my entire life. I stared at the envelope sitting in Sophia's hands, unable to move. My name was written across the front, Emily Carter. I had never seen that handwriting before, yet something about it felt strangely familiar. My heart was racing as I looked from the envelope to Sophia. Where did you get this? I asked. Sophia looked down. It was given to me many years ago by someone who knew the truth. Whose truth? She took a deep breath. Your family's. Those words made the room feel smaller. My family. I had always believed I knew my family. My father, Daniel, had raised me alone after my mother died. He had told me everything I needed to know about my childhood, or at least I thought he had. I slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph. The moment I saw it, my hand started shaking. It was a picture of a young woman holding a baby. The woman was Isabella, and the baby was me. I looked at Sophia in disbelief. No, my voice barely came out. That can't be possible. Sophia sat across from me. Your father loved you? Never doubt that. Daniel Carter was the man who raised you, protected you, and gave you a beautiful life. But, Isabella. I couldn't finish the sentence. Sophia nodded. Isabella was your mother. The world seemed to stop. For my entire life, I believed my mother had died when I was a child. I believed my father was the only parent I had ever known. Now I was learning that another woman existed. A woman connected to Victor Romano. A woman whose disappearance changed everything. Why didn't my father tell me? Sophia looked sad. Because he was trying to protect you. Protect me from what? She looked toward the window. From the world Victor Romano lived in. I sat silently as Sophia explained what happened years ago. Victor and Isabella were deeply in love. But Victor was already becoming involved in a dangerous world. He was building an empire, and powerful people around him wanted control. Isabella hated that life. She wanted Victor to leave the violence behind. She wanted them to raise their child somewhere peaceful. But someone inside Victor's organization saw Isabella as a threat. They believed that if Victor chose his family over power, they would lose everything. So they created a plan. They made Victor believe Isabella had betrayed him. They made Isabella believe Victor wanted nothing to do with her. They separated two people who loved each other. And they took away a father from his child. Who did this? I asked. Sophia's expression became serious. Someone Victor trusted more than anyone. Who? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she handed me another document. It was an old report. A name was written at the bottom. Anthony Vale. I had heard that name before. Anthony Vale was one of Victor Romano's closest friends. His most loyal partner. The person who stood beside him when he built his empire. The person Victor trusted completely. My stomach tightened. So Victor doesn't know? Sophia shook her head. He believes Isabella abandoned him. He believes you were taken away from him because she chose to leave. I looked at the photograph again. A baby. A mother. A father who never knew the truth. Suddenly, everything made sense. The sadness behind Victor's eyes. The anger. The loneliness. He wasn't just a powerful man. He was a father who lost his family. And I was the daughter he never knew existed. But then Sophia grabbed my hand. There is something else. I looked at her. What? Anthony Vale discovered the truth years ago. My heart sank. What did he do? Sophia's voice became quieter. He tried to erase every piece of evidence that could expose him. A cold fear moved through me. Does he know I exist? Sophia didn't answer, and that silence told me everything. For the first time, I understood why people had warned me to stop searching. I wasn't just uncovering an old family secret. I was reopening a war that powerful people had spent decades trying to bury. And now that I knew the truth, someone would do anything to make sure I never told Victor Romano. After leaving Sophia's apartment, I couldn't stop thinking about everything I had learned. My entire life had changed in a single afternoon. The woman I thought was a stranger was actually my mother. The man I thought was only a dangerous mafia boss was actually my biological father. And the person who destroyed their lives was someone who had been trusted like family. I drove home that evening in complete silence. The city lights passed by my window, but I barely noticed them. My mind was trapped in the past. I kept looking at the photograph Sophia gave me, a young Isabella holding me as a baby, a woman who loved me enough to disappear from my life to protect me. I wondered how many nights she cried, how many times she wanted to come back, how many times she looked at that same photograph and wished things were different. When I arrived home, my father was sitting in his old chair near the window. Daniel always knew when something was wrong. He looked at my face and immediately understood. Emily? I didn't answer. I placed the photograph on the table. The moment he saw it, the color disappeared from his face. For several seconds, he just stared. Then he whispered one word, Sophia. My heart sank. You knew? My father looked away. That hurt more than anything. Dad? You knew all this time? He slowly stood up. Emily, I wanted to tell you. When? When you were ready. I felt tears building in my eyes. Ready for what? To find out my whole life was a lie. Daniel looked hurt. No, your life was never a lie. He walked closer. Every moment I spent raising you was real. Every birthday, every school event, every night I stayed awake when you were sick. I was your father because I chose you every single day. His words broke something inside me, because I knew he was right. Daniel wasn't the man who gave me life. He was the man who gave me everything, but I still needed answers. Why didn't you tell me about Victor? My father sat down slowly. Because Victor Romano was not always the man you know today. He took a deep breath. When your mother disappeared, Victor was surrounded by enemies. His world was dangerous. People around him would hurt anyone close to him. And you thought keeping me away was safer? Yes. I looked at him. Did Mom ever try to find me? My father's eyes filled with tears. Every day. That answer broke my heart. She loved you more than anything, Emily. Then why did she leave? She didn't. My father reached into a drawer and pulled out an old letter. This came years after she disappeared. I stared at the envelope. Why didn't you show me? Because it was not just a letter. He looked at me with sadness. It was a warning. I opened it carefully. Inside was a message from Isabella. Only a few lines. Daniel, if anything happens to me, protect our daughter. Do not let Victor know the truth until you are certain she is safe. The people who betrayed us are still watching. My hands started shaking. My mother wasn't running away. She was hiding me, trying to protect me. At that moment, my anger disappeared. All those years, I thought I had been abandoned. But the truth was completely different. My parents had both sacrificed everything for me. Then my father said something that made my blood run cold. Emily, there is another reason I never wanted you to find Victor. I looked up. What? He hesitated. Because Anthony Vale is still alive. My heart stopped. The man who destroyed their lives? Daniel nodded. And he is still powerful. The room became silent. Then my phone started ringing. I looked at the screen. Unknown number, I answered. At first, nobody spoke. Then a man's voice came through. Emily Carter. My body froze. Who is this? The voice was calm, almost too calm. You've been asking questions that should have stayed buried. I couldn't breathe. How do you know my name? A short silence followed. Then the man whispered, Because your mother asked me to watch over you. The call ended. I stared at my phone, completely confused. I didn't know if I had just found an ally, or if someone else was trying to pull me deeper into a dangerous world. But one thing was clear. The people who wanted the truth hidden knew I had found it. And now they were coming for me. After that phone call, I didn't sleep the entire night. I sat in my room staring at the old photograph of my mother holding me as a baby. 1,000 questions ran through my mind. Who was the man who called me? Was he protecting me, or was he trying to scare me? Most importantly, how many people had known the truth about my family while I lived my entire life unaware? The next morning, my father found me sitting at the kitchen table. He didn't ask if I was okay. He already knew I wasn't. Someone contacted you, he said quietly. I looked up. How did you know? Daniel sighed. Because I knew this day would come eventually. My heart tightened. Dad, what aren't you telling me? He sat across from me. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in my father's eyes. Not worry, not sadness. Fear. Emily, before your mother disappeared, she trusted someone. Who? Someone inside Victor's organization. I waited. His name was Marcus. I remembered the voice from the phone. Was it him? My father nodded slowly. Most likely. Who is he? Daniel looked toward the window. Marcus was Victor's closest security advisor. He was one of the few people who knew about Isabella and you. Then why would he contact me now? My father didn't answer, and that worried me more than anything. Later that day, I agreed to meet Marcus. My father wanted to come with me. At first, I refused. I needed answers. But he looked at me and said something that changed my mind. I lost your mother once because I couldn't protect her. I'm not losing you too. So we went together. We met Marcus at an old restaurant outside the city. When I saw him, I immediately recognized him from old photographs Sophia had shown me. He was older now, gray hair, serious eyes, the kind of person who had spent his life carrying heavy secrets. He stood when we approached. Emily, hearing my name from him felt strange. You knew my mother? Marcus nodded. I did. Then tell me the truth. He looked at my father, then back at me. You deserve to know everything. Marcus explained that he had discovered Anthony Vale's plan years earlier. He knew Anthony had created the lie that destroyed Victor and Isabella, but he was too late to stop it. Why didn't you tell Victor? I asked. His face became filled with regret. I tried. And? Anthony had already taken control of the people around Victor. Anyone who challenged him disappeared. My father clenched his fists. So you did nothing. Marcus looked at him. I protected what I could. He reached into his jacket and placed an old envelope on the table. This belonged to your mother. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Why are you giving this to me? Because Isabella wanted Victor to have it one day. I opened it carefully. Inside was another letter, but this one was addressed to a name that made my heart race. Victor. My biological father. I couldn't believe what I was holding. A letter my mother had written to the man she loved. A letter he had never received. Marcus looked at me. Your mother never stopped loving him. Tears filled my eyes. Then why didn't she go back? His voice became quiet. Because she discovered something dangerous. What? Marcus leaned closer. Anthony Vale didn't just want power. He wanted Victor dead. The words sent a chill through me. My mother hadn't disappeared because she wanted a new life. She disappeared because she was trying to keep Victor alive, and me safe. Then Marcus said the one thing I never expected. Emily, there's something else you need to understand. I looked at him. Victor Romano has been searching for Isabella for years. I froze. But he thought she abandoned him. Marcus nodded. He believed that because Anthony made sure he believed it. I looked down at the letter in my hands. After decades of lies, the truth was finally close. But there was one problem. To reveal everything, I would have to face the most powerful man in the city. The man who never knew I existed. My father, Victor Romano. For the next several days, I carried the letter everywhere I went. I kept it inside my purse, protected like it was the most valuable thing I owned. Because it was. It wasn't made of gold. It wasn't worth millions of dollars. But inside those pages were the words my mother had written to the man who never knew he had a daughter. A man who had spent decades believing the woman he loved abandoned him. I wondered what would happen when Victor Romano finally read it. Would he believe me? Would he be angry? Would he hate me for bringing back a past he had tried to bury? I had so many questions, but there was only one way to find out. I had to meet him. My father was against the idea at first. Emily, you don't know what you're walking into. I know. No, you don't. His voice cracked. Victor may be your father, but he is also a dangerous man. I looked at him. Dad, you spent your entire life protecting me from this world, but Mom spent her entire life trying to reveal the truth. Daniel looked away. He knew I was right. For years he had carried the burden of keeping me safe, but now I had to make my own choice. The following morning, Marcus arranged the meeting. Victor Romano agreed to see me, not because he knew who I was, not because he expected answers. He agreed because Marcus told him someone had information about Isabella. The meeting was held at Victor's private estate. The place looked more like a fortress than a home. Tall gates, security everywhere, people watching every movement. As I walked through those gates, I felt the weight of the world I was entering. A world my father had spent years keeping me away from. Marcus walked beside me. Are you ready? I looked down at the letter in my hand. No, he gave me a small nod. That's the honest answer. We entered a large office, and then I saw him, Victor Romano. The man everyone feared. The man whose name had controlled an entire city. He stood near the window with his back toward us. He looked older than I expected. Not weak. Not defeated, but tired, like someone who had been carrying pain for too long. When he turned around, his eyes immediately went to Marcus. Then they moved to me. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Then Victor said quietly, "Who is she?" Marcus looked at him. "Victor." Something in Marcus's voice changed the entire room. Victor noticed. His expression became serious. "What do you know?" I stepped forward. My hands were shaking, but I held the letter tightly. "My name is Emily Carter." Victor stared at me. "Carter?" "My father's name is Daniel Carter." The moment I said that name, Victor's face changed slightly, because he knew it. He knew exactly who Daniel was. "Where did you get that name?" I swallowed. "From my father." Victor took a step closer. "And why are you here?" I looked into the eyes of the man who had no idea he was looking at his own daughter. "Because I have something that belonged to Isabella." The room became silent. Victor stopped moving. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of an enemy, not fear of losing power. Fear of hearing something he had spent years hoping for. "Isabella?" His voice was barely a whisper. I slowly held out the envelope. "She wrote this for you." Victor didn't move. The most powerful man in the city stood frozen. His hand trembled as he reached for the letter. He looked at the handwriting, and suddenly, all the strength disappeared from his face. Because he recognized it. He had seen that handwriting thousands of times before. It was hers. The woman he thought was gone forever. The woman he believed had betrayed him. The woman he never stopped loving. He carefully opened the envelope. Everyone in the room watched silently. Victor began reading. The first few lines were enough. His eyes filled with tears. Then he stopped. His hands started shaking. He looked up at me, and for a moment the feared Mafia boss was gone. There was only a broken man. A father who was about to discover the truth of a daughter he never knew existed. Victor Romano stood completely still, holding my mother's letter in his hands. The room that had felt so powerful moments earlier suddenly felt different. The guards, the expensive furniture, the intimidating atmosphere, none of it mattered anymore. Because the most feared man in the city was no longer looking like a mafia boss. He looked like a man who had just found a piece of his heart that he thought was lost forever. His eyes moved across the pages slowly. Every sentence seemed to hurt him. Every word brought back memories he had buried for decades. I watched as his hands trembled. I had expected anger. I had expected questions. I had expected a powerful man demanding answers, but I saw something else. Pain. After several minutes, Victor lowered the letter. His voice was barely audible. She knew. Nobody spoke. He looked at Marcus. She knew I never stopped looking for her. Marcus lowered his head. "Yes?" Victor looked back at the letter. "Then why didn't she come back?" That question carried years of heartbreak. Marcus took a deep breath. "Because she was trying to protect you." Victor's expression changed. "Protect me?" Marcus nodded. "Isabella discovered what Anthony Vale was planning. She knew he wanted control over everything you built. She knew he would destroy anyone standing in his way." Victor's jaw tightened. "Anthony." The name alone changed the atmosphere. I could see years of betrayal and anger returning to his eyes. "He told me she left me," Victor whispered. "He told me she took our child and disappeared because she didn't want me." His voice cracked. "I spent 20 years believing the woman I loved abandoned me." I stepped forward. "She didn't." Victor looked at me. I held back my tears. "My mother loved you." The room became silent. "She kept your photograph until the end." Victor stared at me. "Until the end?" I nodded. "She never forgot you." Those words broke something inside him. He turned away, trying to hide his emotions. But for the first time, I saw the man behind the reputation. A man who had spent his whole life pretending he didn't hurt. A man who built walls around himself because someone had destroyed his trust. After a long silence, Victor looked at me again. "Why did she never tell me about you?" My heart tightened, because I knew this was the moment everything would change. I took a deep breath, because she was afraid. Of me, I shook my head. No, of what would happen to me if Anthony found out. Victor looked confused. "Anthony knew." I nodded. "He knew there was a child." The color disappeared from his face. "How?" "Because he was the one who separated you from my mother." Victor's expression turned cold. The pain disappeared. The anger returned. But this time, it wasn't directed at me. It was directed at the person who had stolen decades of his life. "Where is he?" Marcus answered quietly. "Still alive." Victor closed his eyes. For a moment, I thought he might explode with anger. Instead, he took a slow breath. When he opened his eyes again, I saw something different. Determination. But before he could say anything, I asked the question I had been afraid to ask. "Do you believe me?" Victor looked at me for a long time. Then he walked closer. He studied my face carefully, my eyes, my expression, the small details that connected me to Isabella. Finally, he whispered, "Your mother had those same eyes." I felt tears fall. Victor looked away. I spent my entire life searching for one person. He looked back at me. I never imagined I would find two. Those words broke through every wall I had built, because at that moment, I realized something. Victor Romano wasn't just discovering the truth about Isabella. He was discovering me, his daughter. But before we could say anything more, the office door suddenly opened. One of Victor's men rushed inside. His face was pale. "Boss." Victor turned. "What happened?" The man looked at me, then at Victor. "We have a problem." The room became tense. "What kind of problem?" The man swallowed. "Someone knows she is here." My heart stopped. Victor's expression changed instantly, because he understood what that meant. The secret was no longer a secret. And the people who had spent decades hiding the truth now knew that Isabella's daughter had returned. The moment Victor heard those words, the entire room changed. The sadness in his eyes disappeared. The broken man who had just discovered he had a daughter was replaced by the powerful figure everyone feared, but I noticed something different. This time, his anger wasn't about power. It wasn't about revenge. It was about protecting his family. "Who knows?" Victor asked. His voice was calm, but everyone in the room could feel the danger behind it. The guard looked nervous. "We don't know for sure, but someone accessed old records connected to Isabella. Someone has been searching for information about Emily Carter." My stomach tightened. They knew my name. Victor looked at me immediately. "Did anyone follow you here?" I shook my head. "I don't think so." Marcus stepped forward. "Anthony has people everywhere. If he knows Emily is alive and has the letter, he will come." Victor looked down at the letter from Isabella. For a moment, he touched the paper gently. The same letter that carried the truth he had waited decades to hear. Then he folded it carefully and placed it inside his jacket. "No one touches her." The room went silent. Victor looked at his men. "Do you understand me?" Everyone nodded. "She's under my protection." Hearing those words felt strange. For my entire life, I had been protected by one father. Now I had another, but I didn't know how to feel. Victor noticed my expression. "I know this is a lot for you." I looked at him. "You are a stranger to me." The words came out before I could stop them. The room became quiet. But Victor didn't get angry. He simply nodded. "I know." His voice was softer. "I missed 24 years of your life. I wasn't there for your first steps. I wasn't there for your first day of school. I wasn't there when you needed someone." He paused. "And I know I can't get those years back." My eyes filled with tears. "But I want the chance to know you now." I looked away. Because a part of me wanted to accept him. Another part of me was afraid. I had spent my entire life believing Daniel was my only father. Accepting Victor felt like betraying the man who raised me. As if he understood my thoughts, Victor said something unexpected. "Daniel Carter is a good man." I looked at him. "He gave you the life I couldn't." Those words surprised me. "I don't hate him for that." Victor took a breath. "I am grateful he protected you." For the first time, I saw respect in his eyes. Not jealousy, not anger. Respect. Later that evening, Victor arranged for me and my father to stay somewhere safe. As we left his mansion, I looked back. The place that once represented fear now represented something completely different. A broken family trying to find its way back together. But I knew the danger wasn't over. The next morning, Marcus brought us information. Anthony Vale had disappeared. And that could only mean one thing. He knew. The man who had destroyed my parents' lives knew that the truth had finally come out. That afternoon, Victor received a message. No name, no number, just one sentence. Some secrets should have stayed buried. Victor read it silently. Then he handed the phone to me. My blood ran cold, because beneath the message was a photograph. A photograph of me leaving Victor's mansion. Someone had been watching. Someone had been waiting, and they wanted us to know they were close. Victor looked at the picture. Then he looked at me. "I promised your mother I would protect you," I swallowed. "You made that promise after she was gone." He shook his head. "No." His voice became emotional. "I made that promise the moment I found out you existed. For the first time, I believed him, but believing him didn't make the danger disappear. Because Anthony Vale was still out there, and he had spent decades destroying anyone who threatened his secrets. Now he had one final problem. Me. The days that followed were unlike anything I had ever experienced. My entire life had been simple. Wake up, go to work, come home to my father, a normal life. But now I was surrounded by security, secrets, and people who lived in a world I never knew existed. I had discovered that my family was connected to one of the most powerful men in the city. I had learned that my mother had spent years hiding the truth. And now, the person responsible for destroying my family was coming after me. But the strangest part was not the danger. It was getting to know Victor, the man everyone feared. The man whose name made people lower their voices? With me, he was different. He didn't act like a powerful businessman. He acted like a father trying to learn about the daughter he lost before he even knew she existed. Every morning he asked small questions. What was your favorite subject in school? What did you want to become when you were younger? What was your mother like? At first I didn't know how to answer, but slowly I started opening up. I told him about my childhood, about my father teaching me how to ride a bicycle, about my first day of school, about the small moments that made my life special. Victor listened to every word. Sometimes he smiled. Sometimes he looked away because his emotions were too strong. One evening I asked him a question. Do you regret your life? He looked surprised. What do you mean? The choices you made, the world you became part of. For a long time he said nothing. Then he looked at the old photograph of my mother sitting on his desk. Every decision I made was supposed to protect the people I loved. He paused. But somewhere along the way I lost the very thing I was trying to protect. That answer stayed with me, because I realized Victor wasn't proud of everything he had done. He was a man who had spent years trying to survive a world that had taken everything from him. But while we were rebuilding our relationship, Anthony Vale was preparing his final move. Marcus discovered that Anthony had been hiding in an old warehouse outside the city. He wasn't running, he was waiting. Victor wanted to go after him immediately, but I stopped him. Don't let him turn you into the person he wants you to be. Victor looked at me. What do you mean? Anthony took your family once because he destroyed your trust. Don't let him take your peace too. Those words surprised him, because they sounded like something Isabella would have said. For a moment, he just stared at me. Your mother used to say things like that? I smiled sadly. Then maybe I learned from the right person. That night, Victor made a decision. He would confront Anthony, but not with anger, with the truth. The next day, we went to the warehouse. My father wanted to come. Victor told him it was too dangerous, but Daniel looked at him and said something that made everyone silent. I spent 24 years protecting my daughter from this world. He stepped forward. Don't ask me to stand back now. Victor looked at him. For the first time, the two men who had spent years connected by one woman finally understood each other. They weren't enemies. They were two fathers who had both loved the same child. When we entered the warehouse, Anthony was already there. He stood in the middle of the empty building, calm and confident, almost like he had been expecting us. He looked at me and smiled. So, the little girl who started all this finally came looking for answers. Victor stepped forward. Anthony, the older man laughed. After all these years, you still look at me like a friend. Victor's eyes became cold. You were never my friend, Anthony smiled. No? He looked at me. I was the only one who protected you from the truth. I felt anger rising inside me. You destroyed my family. Anthony shook his head. No, Emily, he smiled. Your family destroyed itself. Victor moved closer. Tell her the truth. Anthony laughed. You want the truth? He looked at me. Your mother didn't disappear because of me. The room went silent. My heart stopped. What did you say? Anthony smiled. Ask your father why Isabella really left. Everyone turned toward Victor, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Anthony's words hung in the air like a weapon. Ask your father why Isabella really left. I looked at Victor. The man who had spent his entire life searching for my mother. The man who had just told me he never stopped loving her. But now, there was something in his eyes. Not guilt. Not exactly. Something closer to pain. Victor? I whispered. He looked down, and that was when I realized there was still a part of the story I didn't know. A part that had been hidden from me. Anthony smiled. Tell her. Victor didn't answer. Tell her what happened that night. I stepped closer. I deserve to know. Victor closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked like the powerful man everyone feared. But then he looked at me, and I saw a father who was afraid of disappointing his daughter. The night your mother disappeared, he began. His voice was quiet. I was supposed to meet Isabella. I listened carefully, but I never made it. Why? Victor looked at the floor. Because I was trying to protect her. He explained that years ago, he discovered someone inside his organization was planning to betray him. He knew Isabella and their unborn child were in danger. So he made the hardest decision of his life. He stayed away. He thought distance would keep them safe. I thought if Isabella believed I had walked away, she would leave the city and survive. My heart broke. You never told her. Victor shook his head. I was wrong. Anthony laughed. Exactly. You both made mistakes. Everyone looked at him. Anthony continued. Victor thought he was protecting Isabella. Isabella thought Victor abandoned her, and while you two were destroying yourselves, I took advantage. For the first time, Anthony's confidence disappeared. Because the truth was finally exposed. He had not created the entire tragedy, but he had used their pain to destroy them completely. Victor stepped forward. You manipulated two people who loved each other. Anthony stared at him. I did what I had to do. No. Victor's voice became cold. You did what benefited you. The authorities arrived soon after. Marcus had secretly contacted them after discovering Anthony's location. For years, Anthony had hidden behind power and fear. But evidence from Isabella's letters, old documents, and Marcus's testimony finally exposed everything. The man who had spent decades controlling people's lives lost control of his own. As Anthony was taken away, he looked at me one last time. You have no idea what your father really is. I looked at Victor, then at my own father, Daniel, and I answered, I know exactly what they are. They are people, broken, imperfect, but capable of changing. Months passed after that day. My life slowly became normal again. Not the old normal. A new one. Daniel and Victor formed an unexpected friendship. At first it was awkward. Two very different men connected by one daughter. But over time, they learned to respect each other. My father was grateful that Victor loved me. Victor was grateful that Daniel raised me. Neither man tried to replace the other, because they both understood something important. A child can have more than one person who loves them. Victor also changed. The world still remembered his past. But I saw the man behind the reputation, the man who kept my mother's photograph beside his bed, the man who cried the first time I called him Dad, the man who spent the rest of his life trying to make up for the years we lost. Years later, I still keep my mother's original letter. The paper has become old, the ink has faded, but the words remain powerful, because that letter did more than reveal a secret. It brought a broken family back together. My mother once wrote, "Sometimes the truth hurts before it heals." She was right. The truth changed everything. It destroyed the lies we had lived with for years, but it also gave us something we never thought we would have again, a second chance. And in the end, the most powerful thing my father ever gave me wasn't money, protection, or a name. It was the courage to find the truth, because sometimes the biggest secrets aren't meant to destroy us. Sometimes they are the things that finally bring us home. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel.